Oh, so you're streaming it. Very good,
It
Summer.
should
Look at
be.
this.
Let me see. Make sure it is. Oops. Let me
Well,
see.
I'm doing mine anyway, so.
Yeah, it says it is. So,
Oh, you updated the
yeah.
cookie.
Okay.
Look at you. Just an
Okay.
absolute
Okay.
pro. What are we talking
I'm
about today,
excited.
Summer?
I'm excited for this one. We are talking about the TV shows and movies that messed up our body image as well as our audience's body image.
Hmm.
Um, Before we start, Death to Diets is a show that we created where we look at the ridiculousness of diet culture and beauty standards and just kind of more topical things that have happened in the world of dieting or body image or any of the kind of work that we do. And yeah, we unpack it here. We ridicule it. We make we give people advice, and we do not judge or blame anyone that engages in diets. More, we critique and reflect on the culture of dieting and the issues around that. Do you want to introduce yourself?
I am Vinnie Wellsby, V Doublelicious, super sexy person, and I am a fat activist, non-binary, fat, amazing human being, and I teach about unlearning fat phobia. What about you,
Great.
Summer?
I'm a professionally trained life coach. I specialize in body image, self worth, and confidence. And I also host a podcast called Eat the Rules. And yeah, we're buddies, right? We're friends.
We are friends, and you know what, Summer? I made the biggest mistake of my life before coming on here today. I ate some trail mix, and now I've got trail mix in my mouth, in my teeth.
Oh,
You know what I mean? Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
It's fucking
Hmm.
the worst. So if you see me like this, going with my fingers in my mouth, then you know why. So,
Well, at least you're not eating it while we're trying to record. That would
oh,
make
can you
for
imagine?
really good audio.
So I love the fact that you said, "Oh, it's topical. We do topical stuff," because there's so many of these things that I'm like, "Oh my god, I blah blah blah. I need to talk to someone about
Yes.
bullshit that I'm seeing." There's a show I'm watching right now. Right now, as we're streaming, I'm watching a show. No, right now, like in the evening, and it's getting on my tits, and I was like, "Oh, well, Summer can tell me. I can talk to Summer about it."
Yes.
So
Yes. I've got some
what
of
was the
those
thing?
too.
Go on. Sorry, I'm interrupting you.
No, I interrupted you.
There
I
better
just said
be sorry.
yes.
I was going to say, so what are the big things, the shows or movies that fucked up your body image?
Yeah. So, I was really reflecting on this because I saw that this was like a couple months ago, and I saw a rerun of Friends, and I was like, oh my God, like this show totally warped my body image. Did you watch Friends?
I loved Friends. I remember it'd be showing on Channel 4. No, was it Channel 4? Yeah, Channel 4, 9 p.m. Friday night. Watched it religiously.
Yeah. Like I got the same tattoo that Rachel got. That's how obsessed with it I was.
What? What is that? What is the tattoo?
It's like a little heart on my lower back.
Is it
Like,
where Rachel got it?
yeah.
Oh
Like,
my god! Yes, you super fan, you.
can I please disclose that I was 16 years old when I did that? So I was
Mhm.
like not very, my frontal lobe hadn't fully developed.
Well, hang on a minute, Summer. Why? How do you explain the that back tattoo you got a couple of weeks ago of Monica's face? Because you are not 16
Well,
anymore.
closeted, obsessed fan. Yeah, so you watch that show. This was the time, and this was some of the feedback we got from the audience, right? Like that shows kind of in like the late 90s, like early 2000s. That was when like quote unquote, actresses were like competing to sort of be the thinnest. Like it was sort of this new ideal that came out. Like we had gone from, women having like just like they were still really thin, but to like extreme thinness. And when I
Yeah.
went back, when I saw this rerun, I was like, oh my God, like they're so thin. And I'm not thin shaming at all, but it was more just a reflection of like, wow, this really, like, I can see how this warped my own perception of my body. And then I think you're probably familiar with the character of Fat Monica. Do you remember that character?
Yep.
Like, horrible character that pretty much was, you know, the walking stereotype of everything that you would associate with, like, you know, like with fatness in a very, you know, negative way, like what our culture has sort of made us believe. And then, you know, like the newer thin Monica being the one who like everybody likes and she's attractive and all this other stuff, and just really feeding into this, you know, this belief that you have to be thinner in order to be, you know, in order to be worthy. What were your thoughts? Like, what were your thoughts on that when you were like, you must have been, because you're younger than me, you would have been even younger, sort of taking that in.
So I remember that she had a completely different personality.
Yeah.
Like, I just remember her being like weak and being like, you know, I'm so disgusting and horrible, and, you know, just a nerd and like not who she is, you know.
Yeah.
And a part of me was like, okay, well, I'm really shy. And so when I grow up and become thin, then I'll become like Monica. I'll be like confident and fabulous and, you know, date Chandler Bing and all that type of stuff. Because that's what happens when you lose weight, is you get a new personality and you become confident, which obviously you don't. But yeah, and you know, that hope that I was still young, like I was probably 14, 13, and being like, okay, well, that was Monica when she was young, and so I've got a limited time until I better become thin, because it's obviously a terrible thing that maybe you might be able to get away with if you're younger, but certainly not if you're an adult.
Wow. And like, did you remember that? Like, was that something that kind of stuck with you, or had you forgotten about that?
No, I totally remember that. And because that's the scene where she stabbed Chandler's foot. She dropped a knife on Chandler's foot and he lost a toe, right? Like, I just remember it so badly, and how shameful it was that she had this secret past of being fat. Like, fat was this like her past of being a serial killer, you know, that she had to hide it away. And don't talk about when I was Fat Monica, because it was so embarrassing. Yeah.
It's such cheap humor too. Like, it's not even like, it's so, just lowbrow and like, I mean, it's not even humor really, but
no, like, and Friends was, oh my goodness. I felt like this about Sex and the City. They're so diverse, because they have like a dark hair one, they have a stupid one, they have the funny one. So they've got all of the characters of humanity there. Like, it's and no matter, also like with the fat phobia, but it was also problematic in a gajillion different ways. One thing that really stands out for me was transphobia. Chandler's dad was trans, or maybe a drag queen. There was some sort of exploration of gender there, and it was like this hilarious punchline to make fun of the dad.
Oh, I don't remember that part of it. Wow. Yeah. I mean, and like, who can afford to live in New York, in that size of an apartment in New York as well? Like, just as a side note. Right. It's the most ridiculous thing. That would be worth like millions and millions of dollars.
I know. Even if we lived in an apartment that size now in Vancouver, we'd be like, oh, hello. Pretty impressive.
God, so much bigger than my house. Yeah. And then, do you want to do one of your shows, or do you want me to keep doing some of my
You keep going with yours.
Okay. So the other one that I wanted to talk about, which is interesting because other people in the audience said this one too, is America's Next Top Model. Did you watch that one?
Another one that I fucking love. Yeah. I was always working those smizes. Do you remember the smize?
The smize. Yeah, the smize.
Yeah. But I love that. Tell me why that fucked with you.
Well, for one, I mean, like, you know, the again, it's like extreme thinness, like extreme thinness. But do you remember what they always had a token plus size model? Do you remember what size the token plus size model was?
Oh shit! I don't even remember there being one. Like, because really like, but they must have been max a size 10.
Size 8.
Oh, of course, really fucking fat, size 8. Basically, very small, very small.
Yeah. And so I remember thinking, like, in my own, you know, distorted mind, that like, oh my God, being a size 8 is plus size. Like,
wow.
then, you know what I mean? Like, first of all, like that's a terrible thought just anyways. And so, but in like when I was young and still buying into this notion that, you know, like thinner is better. Like I remember that. And I remember thinking like, well, it can't be like a size 8. I think I was a size 8 at the time, but it was just like, I mean, it was just so distorted, like that, you know, like the obvious, like lack of any sort of diversity, like the plus size models of size 8 is just like the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. And of course, if you're staring at like stick thin people for, you know, an hour or hours at a time, because you're watching all these shows like back to back, like it's going to warp your perception of your own body and like what you associate, like how you perceive yourself. And
oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I can't remember like the plus size models. It must have been like next seasons or whatever. Maybe I didn't watch it enough. But I'm so glad that didn't stick in my mind, because size 8, I haven't been size 8 since I was 8 years old, probably. Like, it's like, so if there were plus size at size 8, I would have just like shit in my trousers. The only good thing I remember about ANTM was the height requirement was 5'7", and I'm 5'7", and I was like, I could be a model when I lose weight. So when I get older, you know, because I'm going to be thin when I'm older, at least I'm tall enough to be a model, because I'm definitely going to get onto ANTM and be a model. But as well, alongside the just stereotypical beauty ideals, was the amount of inappropriate stuff that they did. Do you remember the episode where they put people in blackface?
No. Oh my gosh, no.
Yeah, they did like a
wow.
culture swap, quotes, is what they did it, and they put white models in blackface and then took pictures, and no one said, maybe we shouldn't. And there was another one where a family member had just died like the day before, and then the next shoot was in coffins in the ground, and the girl was like, I'm feeling really sensitive because, you know, my mum just died, and it was not Miss J, it was the other one, you know, the one with the silver hair, was like, bitch, you better get in there if you don't want to fail being a model. And she had to do it, and she'd had to do the shoot sobbing, and it was just like, and I remember being at the time, yeah, bitch, get in that fucking coffin. If you know, the modeling world is harsh like this, you know, you just gotta do it. And, you know, I didn't bat an eye at any of this stuff. And yeah, I was there judging their bodies like the judges were. You know, I thought I was a Miss J, being like, oh, look at her walk, it's so terrible. And, you know, I couldn't do a fucking model walk. Anyway.
That's so true. Yeah, it really taught you how to kind of critique other people too, like, because it was all about kind of picking them apart and compartmentalizing them. And and you saying that now, like, really makes me realize, like, that was part of the entertainment value of it, was like, you're part of like the judgment of these other people. And like, it's like, that's so messed up, because I mean, really, that's just like internalized misogyny at its finest, right? Like, kind of teaching you to just like objectify another individual and break them down, and like think like, oh, they're not good at, like, oh, like, no, they don't look good in that picture, or their arm looks funny, or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's just so hyper focused on looks. Like, hyper focused on looks. And
I have a funny side story. When I was 12, I went to a modeling camp.
Ooh, did you? Tell me, in Next Top Model, tell me everything.
They told me I was too fat.
No.
Yeah.
Hang on, you were 12?
Yeah. Yeah. You want to talk about things that messed with, like, I remember that. Yeah, exactly. And I had this like really, really fucking feisty best friend at the time. And
Yeah.
she, like, we got into a lot of trouble together. She was the one that kind of led me down a bit of like behavior that was probably not appropriate for my age. But she actually went to this place like without me knowing or anything like that, and she just walked in there and fucking reamed them out and was like,
Wow.
"You people are like the." Just...
Oh my goodness, that was pretty badass of her, and how fucked up that is to say to a 12-year-old. I mean, what?
I know.
And so they said, they were like, looked you up and down and was like, too fat.
Yeah, basically, like, you kind of like, you went to this camp, so you paid money for this camp, and they taught you like how to walk and like how to do, I forget, makeup. Like, the whole thing is really disturbing when I reflect on it. Wow. And please don't see this as like a fault against my mother. I have no idea. Like, maybe I asked to go there. I don't know, but definitely, like, do not send your daughters to modeling camp. And then, so you pay money to go to this, and then they have like an audition. And so then I went to this audition and they told me I was too fat. And
wow.
So, and here's the thing, like, at the time, I was not what you would consider fat. I pretty much had the exact same body that I have now. Like, yeah. Really, if you look at pictures of me then, it's like pretty much not that different. And so, like, definitely, you know, some curves, more mid-size, but not like, and not that there's anything wrong with being fat, but to call me that, and
it's just not accurate.
It's yeah. I mean, it's just like to, and obviously they use it in a derogatory way and not in like a positive way, like to say like you can't be part of this. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there because I remembered that.
I never knew that about you, Summer. Well, next time we hang out, you're going to teach me your model walk, obviously.
Oh yeah, you just watch me. You just watch me walk.
I'm like, let's go get some lunch somewhere, and then I see you walking down the street. I'm like, who is she? Look at that walk. Just put in some sass in that walk.
With like mud stains on my jacket and like my mom fanny pack.
She's so fabulous.
Okay, why don't we do some of your shows? Because
yes.
So what were some of the ones that messed you up?
Oh, the biggest one, which is what a lot of our audience said, is The Biggest Loser.
Yes.
Which is just a whole heap of fucked upness to the extreme. Oh my goodness. And I loved it. Did you used to watch that show?
Oh, yes. I mean, I pretty much watched every reality TV show in the early 2000s, but yeah, I mean, I loved it. I
loved it. It was, it felt like, these bad fat people had finally got their shit together, had got onto that TV show and were making their life good. And so I could imagine, you know, what my life was going to be like once I made the same sacrifices that they were making. And then the glee when someone didn't lose weight and then they were making excuses. And I say excuses with the quotation marks of, but you know, I did the workout. I ate no food and I still put on weight. And then, you know, the voiceovers of the other contestants being like, well, the numbers don't add up. And then me being like, the numbers don't add up. If you really worked hard, you would have lost weight. And that kind of glee and judgment. And then they get booted off and just being like, look at them. They're so pathetic. They were so close to achieving this incredible thing, but they were just so greedy. And what they made the contestants do was so, I don't know if the show's still on, but so dehumanizing, absolutely appalling, not healthy, not safe, extreme, just degrading, awful, hate it, worst. At the time, loved it.
And I remember, you know, seeing, I think this is when things kind of like started to crumble for that show. Because I remember seeing the finale when there was some woman, like, and they did the reveal in the finale. Yes. They hadn't seen her for a couple months. And she was like really skeletal, basically.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I remember like the trainer's face actually, like their jaw just dropped, and like you could see like them even being like, holy shit, like what just happened? Like this is too much, right?
Yeah.
But then they won the show and they had to celebrate it. And I think that's when maybe things took a bit of a turn for that show, because it was like it brought a lot of attention on the fact that this was really harmful. But I don't think it's on anymore. But Jillian Michaels was the worst. Like just like still.
Yeah, she hasn't learned. Like you would have think from that moment, because I remember because they, everyone comes out and it's a reveal. Oh, look at them, they're thin now, and then all the trainers are like, oh yeah, amazing. And then when this other contestant, I remember, and they were kind of like, oh shit, we fucked up here, but they're still doing it, right? They didn't learn. Actually inducing eating disorders for entertainment and physically hurting fat people for entertainment ain't a good look. I mean, because Jillian Michaels and the other guy, Bob Harper, they're still doing that shit. And, and Bob Harper having a heart attack, you remember, in the last few years. And no consideration there either to be like, do you know what, actually, I'm quote unquote healthy, but I still had a heart attack. Should I maybe consider what is health? Like nothing like that. They haven't learned,
No, and I was gonna say like this idea that like fat people need to be saved by like these thin trainers. You know what I mean? Like, did you feel that way? Like, I feel like that fed into this idea where people like even now are kind of like concern trolls, where they're like, well, like, what about people's health? And it's like, it's none of your business.
Yeah.
But I feel like that fed into this whole like idea that like we have to save these people,
Yeah, because if it wasn't for those kind-hearted trainers, then those poor fat people would just be sitting on the sofa eating quote unquote bad food and dying. But thank God that these kind-hearted thin people came along to save the fatties. And when they would do like the before and after footage of at their home life, and the before of them being a human and just going about life, but the way that they framed it was just like this sad sack piece of shit greedy person. And then when they would be talking to camera like, oh my God, this is the most incredible opportunity of my life. And hey, did you ever read, I did, the Biggest Loser book, The Secret Expo from, what was her name? Kai.
Okay, yeah. No, I didn't. I remember like knowing about it, and but I've seen, I actually, I had someone on the podcast recently who was talking about the study that they studied them, the people in The Biggest Loser, and how their metabolisms like never returned to what they were before that extreme behavior. And you sort of wonder like what's happened to all of these people who were like really just like dehumanized for entertainment purposes.
That was from New York Times that wrote that piece about basically as well the deep feeling of shame that the people who haven't unlearned fat phobia and diet culture of, I had this great opportunity and I had lost weight and now look at me, I'm fat again because of my greed, versus because my body is doing wonderful things to keep me at a weight that I'm happiest at and my metabolism's fucked and la 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 la. So I just if anyone has been on a weight loss show or anything like that, or anyone's been on a diet, then feeling that shame, I just want to give them a big hug and be like, it's not your fault. Your body is doing what it wants to do.
Yes. Yeah, because there's a lot of feelings of failure and just like something's wrong with me and why can't I figure this out? And it's not your fault. Gosh. The worst. What else? What other shows?
My favorite movie for a long time was Shallow Hal. Did you see that one?
No. Okay. So I was aware of it, but I never saw it.
I thought it was fucking amazing. I was just like, finally a film about a fat person. Gwyneth Paltrow in a fat suit.
Okay, yeah, that one. Mm-hmm.
Awful. And so Jack Black is a raging fat phobe as well, unfortunately, even though he's been positioned as someone who's fat positive. There's no evidence to really presume that. But anyway, he's like meant to be an unattractive person, but he has like really high standards and only dates thin people or beautiful people. And then he has some sort of episode, I can't remember what it was. Oh, he meets Tony Robbins in an elevator, and Tony Robbins puts like a spell on him to be able to see the inner beauty of people. And then suddenly all the fat people are really beautiful and all the thin people are really ugly, which, I mean, that's fucking problematic anyway.
Oh my God, yes. Is that what this is about? Oh my God.
And so he meets Gwyneth Paltrow, who looks like Gwyneth Paltrow, but in reality, she's a supersized fat woman, reality, not, fat suit. And she's really shocked that someone like Jack Black would be interested in her. And his friend is like, oh, she's so minging. She's so disgusting. How would you date her? And at the end, nothing is learned. It's just, oh, how there's a fat person who wears big underwear. I'm like, and ever since, it's always been in my mind about a partner holding up the size of my underwear, because there's a scene in the thing being like, oh my God, your underwear's so big. It scarred me. But at the time, I thought it was hilarious and great and innovative.
So you did like it, like when you were, oh my, okay, yeah.
I loved it.
Interesting.
Because I was like, oh my God, Jack Black, he just loves anyone, no matter what their size, even though the whole premise was that he wouldn't have liked her if he knew that she was fat.
Isn't this so messed up?
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That was fun. So did you have any shows that have had a good impact on body image for you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any, prior to like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yes.
I think the best one that we've seen recently, which everyone sort of echoed when we asked them, is Shrill, right? And so that obviously like just is a great show because it's about Edie Bryant, just like obviously it's the story of Lindy West, but just living her life. Like it's not about her body size. Like there's some threads of that in the plot because of it mimics Lindy's story. Have you seen it?
Yeah. I just watched.
It's great. It's hilarious, right?
It's great. Yeah, I finished watching season 3 just a week ago. I didn't know it was out, and I was just like, man, I just love this so much. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just scenes of her having sex. I'm just like, fuck yeah, and it's just to normalize fat people being seen as sexy and attractive and successful and complicated and imperfect and all of these different things, because fat people are normally the funny fat one or the loser fat one or very 2D characters, but it's just really beautiful to see.
Yeah. I think like another show that I've liked recently is The Sex Lives of College Girls. Did you watch that?
I haven't seen that. No.
It doesn't like it doesn't have like a ton of body diversity, but it has like people who are more like a little more normal. Like it has more diversity just in general in terms of abilities and races and and gender and things like that, and so and a little bit with body size as well, but it's just more about their lives. Like it's not about like how they look, and it's a Mindy Kaling show. It's really good. It's very well done.
Check it out. Yeah,
it's very funny.
Another sex thing, Sex Education. Have you seen that one?
I love that. I was going to say that one. I love that show. That show's so great. And it's like, again, probably too many thin people, but like it's a great show. Yeah,
that's the thing is a lot of times when they have diverse bodies, like have you seen Euphoria?
No, I haven't watched it.
Okay, so it's really good. I love it. They've got Barbie Ferreira, I think that's her last name, is a plus size model in it, and she I was gonna say she plays a plus size person. She's in real life. She's pretty mid size. I don't think that she is fat. She's probably a size 14, 16, that type of thing. She is absolute. She's a model, right? So she's a model, and so we'll have this representation of diversity and all of and Euphoria. We've got an amazing trans actor in there as well, and great diversity. But all of these people are literally models, and so where they have a fat person, but it's a fat person in the right way. And in Sex Education, we have a couple of fat people, but I want to see ugly, I want to see people who just look a bit weird, or people who are not models, basically.
Well, because it's like the right kind of like fat body. Like they still have, like the more like hourglass sort of shape. I believe, like, is that kind of
exactly
and so like actually seeing like people who represent what normal people look like. That's why Shrill's so great, because I feel like it does actually have like really good representation.
I think Adie Bryant is still pretty model-esque, right? She's pretty beautiful, but you know what I want to see? I want to see thin people with saggy tits. I want to see.
I'll show you mine. You want to see that?
Do you know what I mean? Like, I want to see, because who is walking around with like, the type of tits that we see in shows? Like 2% of the population, right? I want to see tits that fall into people's armpits on a young person, because I know that's what my tits did when I was young, and I didn't see any of that, right? I only saw like, if you're a young person, your tits are to the ceiling, and and I want to see fat people with saggy tits. I want to see fat people with big hanging bellies and flat bums, and disabled fat people and trans fat people, and all of the, like, I'm just so greedy and want it all, Summer. Give it to me all of it, please, now.
I know. It's pretty sad that we can only think of a handful of shows.
I know, isn't it?
Like, I was thinking about that, and I'm like, everybody said Shrill. I was like, I was hoping there might be some other ones.
Well, I had a couple of ones from the poll that I did. I had Shrill was my number one, and then I had Cagney and Lacey. Did you ever watch that?
No.
It's two. I have never seen it, but it was two women cops fighting sexism as they were doing their detective work. And then we had Roseanne. Now, I watched Roseanne a little bit, but that representation of fatness always terrified me, because Roseanne was quite a, from what I remember, strong character. Like she was, I don't know, bossy or something. And I remember being like, if I'm older and fat, then I'll have to be like Roseanne, and no man will ever want to be with a strong woman, but someone said that was good for them. Oprah, which
for
me, didn't Oprah bring out the barrels of fat?
I mean, she was always talking about her diets, but I suppose if you take away some of the content that she presented, then like,
yeah. And then we have Shrill. Oh yeah, I said Shrill. Yeah, we said Shrill. Yeah,
that was mentioned a lot.
Yeah. There was a weird show on in the UK and in Europe. It was called Eurotrash. Did you ever see that?
No, but it totally sounds like something I would have watched.
It was just the weirdest fucking thing. It'd be on at like midnight, and you'd be like on Friday night or something, and you'd secretly have it on quiet and then quickly turn it off if your parents came in, because it was basically, I don't know where it was from, Germany or some Eastern European accented host who was like a little bit creepy and a little bit suave, and they would have these really diverse kind of sex stories. And so they'd have like porn stars and people making art out of their pubes, and people shitting on each other, and like weird stuff, and also diverse stuff and normative stuff too. But yeah, you'd watch that and be like secretly turned on watching, some stupid fucking story about, people going camping naked. But it kind of showed real bodies, and so that was that was the only thing from when I was young. So
I honestly can't think of anything. And it was interesting, like when we asked people, because I think we both found feedback that everyone was like, basically anything in the 90s and 2000s was like just awful.
yeah,
And and then like a couple others that people mentioned that were problematic that I totally remember, like Bridget Jones's Diary. Like I remember like
yeah.
I mean, it was like a great movie, but then this focus on like her weight and the fact that she, like, I remember she had to gain weight for the role.
Oh, did
And
she?
yeah, she had to gain like 20 pounds or something for the
Oh
role.
well, she's used to that trick now because in her new movie, she's wearing a fat suit now in her new movie.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Anyway,
mean,
carry on.
ugh, but yeah, but it was like like she wrote like her weight in her diary. Like I don't know if you read the book, but
No, I watched the films though.
yeah, and so it was all about like what the weight was and like she hated it and then trying to lose like that was just like this kind of undercurrent of the entire plot line. And
Yes, it was. And that she was
yeah.
so useless and fat, and really she was very, very straight sized, like with a little
Yeah,
bit of chub.
yeah. Like I remember at the time, like I think I was the same size as her, and I was like, "Oh my god, like there's something wrong with me."
Yeah,
Like, you know what I mean? Like it's just
yeah,
so just like no wonder so many people of that generation have body dysmorphia. I think
yeah.
that's like a real
My
issue.
God. Yeah, they just all of the media is just from that time. But even saying that, the thing that I was watching recently that I wanted to mention was, and you were thinking about this too. All the new dating shows that we have nowadays is all like fucking bikinis on the beach, like models on the beach trying to learn how to date, too hot to handle, and even the most cutting edge one, Love is Blind. Have you seen Love is Blind?
No.
The premise is, will you be able to fall in love with someone without even seeing them? And will you still love them after seeing them because they could be unattractive? Of course, every single motherfucker on the show is a model. And so, they fall in love, the doors open. Oh, look at that. Oh, two models. We can find each other attractive. But, sometimes there might be a bit of conflict because it will like, oh, actually, his hair is a different shade of brown that I like. I like more of a mousy brown and his is a bit darker. So we have to call the wedding off. But they've done one season and now season 2 is out. And I think they have tried to include a little bit more, more diversity. And so they had a couple of fat people who didn't make any of airtime, no airtime at all. But two of the people that are in it, so no spoilers if you haven't seen it, by the way. Two of the people that are focused on, two female characters, both of them are former fatties. And so there's a fucking violin out being like, oh, I used to be fat and it's such a shame. Very fat Monica vibes. And so they're like, oh, will he still love me because I used to be fat and now I'm thin and a model? Will he still love me because of my dark past of being fat? And I was just like, boo fucking who? You are so normatively attractive and you used to weigh a little bit more, not even like fat,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
mid-sized fat. Because one of them was describing her weight, and I was like, "Bitch, I'm like 30 pounds heavier than that, probably." Like, and she's like, "Oh, when I was so unattractive," Obviously, they don't use those words when I was so attractive. Well, they pretty much do.
It's loaded.
It's loaded, and I'm just like, really, get out that tiny little fucking violin because you are a model, bitch. Shut up. Get in some real Love is Blind proper people. Like people who are struggling with dating because everyone rejects them. And actually make it good. And so the shallow people, when the doors open and they see a fat person, has to say, I don't actually want to marry you because you're fat. And then that will be a conversation to have. But right now it's just models dating each other. Doesn't stop me watching it though. Doesn't stop me binging it because I like it.
Yeah, I know. I never watched those shows, but I ended up watching Bachelor in Paradise, the Canadian edition, because anyway, it doesn't matter why I stumbled upon it, and then I was like, oh, I'm not tuning out. Like this, I'm completely sucked in and invested in the rest of this series. But I hadn't watched shows like that in quite a long time, and I was just like, wow, like they just really cast like these people that, I mean, I think they are models. I think most of them are just models, and that's where they're casting them from. But one thing I really noticed was that the majority of these people are they're in their 20s. They have Botox and like lip fillers. Like you can tell it's really obvious. And I'm like, what? Like that wasn't a thing like when I was that age. Like that was never a thing. And so now what I noticed was just how the bar is set even higher. Like when I was that age, it was like you had to have fake boobs. You know, that was kind of like the standard, right? You had to be really thin and have fake boobs, which like neither of those. But I used to duct tape my boobs together to try to make them bigger.
Really?
And then put in these like chicken cutlets that were literally the size of chicken breasts. Like, and so, anyways, but now it's like, you know, there's like another level. It's like, okay, no, now they have to have, you know, they have to have Botox and like, you know, lip fillers and like, I'm not criticizing people who do that at all or judging, but it just to me was more like a reflection of the culture where you like, sometimes I like to hope that things are sort of starting to shift, and we sort of see that with certain TV shows, but then you see shit like that and you're like, God, like, no, like the bar just keeps getting higher, you know, like it just keeps getting like more procedures, more like manipulating your body, like molding it into something it's not. Like that's just more and more of the standard, and it's really a shame to see.
That is so true. Yeah, because I remember, getting breast augmentation was the thing when we were younger, and then having straight hair using GHDs. Did you ever get GHDs in Canada?
Isn't that like a drug? Like a drug?
Oh, GHB you're thinking of.
No, so I don't know what's GHD.
It's good hair day is what it stands for, but it was like these straighteners, and they actually worked. They went to a really high heat, and for the first time, people like me who had like really thick frizzy hair could straighten their hair and finally be attractive. And it was like the attractive, like with quotation marks, and it was like the highlight of my life, discovering GHDs. And everyone had them, everyone still does have them probably, but we didn't have things like lip fillers and Botox, and they're probably around, but it wasn't really part of the conversation then.
No, definitely not. So but I know we have to wrap it up here. We could go on and on. There's probably so many shows that we could talk about.
So where can people find you, Summer?
People can find me at thebodyimagecoach.com. That will redirect you to my website. And I have a free 10-day body confidence makeover on there as well. You can find my podcast, Eat the Rules.
Amazing. And you can find me at fiercefatty.com. My podcast is Fierce Fatty. And you can find lots of freebies and amazing shit like pictures of me on my website, and come and hang out with me on Instagram at fierce.fatty.
Amazing. Well, hopefully everyone now understands why they had such a messed up body image, and maybe laugh about some of these things and let it go. But that was a good one. Thanks for being here today.
That was a good one. Yeah. All right.
We'll see you next time.
See you in a while, alligator.
All right.